about this one, particularly on the heels of the episode that you've probably just heard, which is The Art of Choosing You. And the reason I'm so excited about that is because Connie is a wonderful hypnotherapist, a really well known and renowned coach who delves into these topics so much deeper. So she is going to come and bring the icing to the cake for you this week. And I'm so excited about that. Before we begin, just a heads up, if you're looking at the calendar, you're not finding me. It's because currently I'm probably making my way back from HypnoThoughts Live. I got to go and be a presenter. I'll tell you all about it when I'm fully settled, how it was and what was fun and what I got to bring through. And maybe we'll see how it goes. I'll try to take some clips for you so that you can feel like you were part of the journey with me. And other ways, if you're looking at the calendar, you're also not seeing me in the Soul Cave. I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus. I don't know how long it's going to be, but I want to explore some things, and it feels like summer is the prime time to dig in and enjoy that. So if you are looking for one-on-one, you know where I am, you know how to reach me, and let's connect on a more personal level. That is it. That's what I'm up to. And hopefully you're starting to really enjoy summer and finding ways to say yes to you and maybe no to others. We'll get there. But today, thank you so much, Connie, for coming on and for joining. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you. And so I'm really excited to have this really deep one-on-one time with you. For my listeners who are getting to know a lot of hypnotists, but not necessarily in the hypnosis or coaching world, could you introduce yourself for them?
Yes. And I need to first start by saying I'm enjoying this already. I could listen to your voice all day.
Oh, thank
You know how
you.
they said back when we had phone books, could you read the phone book to me, please? I'm dating myself right there. That's a good segue. Okay.
I've never had that request, thankfully.
So, well, thank you so very much. I am Connie Jo Holmes, and I am the founder and CEO of Be You to Be Full Hypnosis and Coaching. And you might be able to see it over my shoulder here. It is spelled goofy, and that was intentional because my mission is in my company name. The Be You stands for how I help individuals to really discover their self-acceptance and how to be authentic. Because when you have that, it's just very natural to live a very fulfilled life. So be you to be full. And I live in Janesville, Wisconsin. I just moved here about 2.5 years ago, and it welcomed me with the biggest, warmest hug. And I'm really enjoying it, making a lot of great friends and connections here. And I do see clients one-on-one in my office here in Janesville, but also via Zoom. As Amanda said, I am also a coach. I'm a certified life coach. I'm also a health coach and also an NLP specialist.
And that's not counting the wonderful way you've been recognized in the hypnosis community the past 2 years. I think I've seen you win an award every year that I've known you. It's been wonderful to see how
Thank
you're
you.
making innovations and changes. Do you want to highlight any of those? I can't even remember which ones you'd won, but it was exciting.
It was. So thank you for that. So I was awarded in October of 2022, the Hypnotist of the Year from Mid-America Hypnosis Convention. And that's the longest standing convention in the United States. I think this year it's going to be the 41st year.
Wow.
And then last year in 2023, in September, I think it was September, I was awarded the Hypnotherapist of the Year from the Michigan Hypnotherapy Guild. That might actually be a little bit of a segue here because clearly I was beyond honored. That is just such a privilege to receive one, let alone two back to back. And now this might be where I really speak to some of your listeners because, although I was so grateful and so excited, there was still that moment where it was like, me? You look in the background, like who's behind me that should have that instead of me. And I honest to goodness, I struggled with that for just a moment. And so I do want people to hear that because how many times have you received a compliment or you have received, an award of some kind and you were maybe thinking, oh, am I really deserving of this? And I want to tell you, don't do that. I'm looking myself in the mirror as I'm saying this because one, you're kind of pooping on the award and the people that gave it to you, which nobody wants to do that. And then number two, why not you? Why not you? And in this world, we're not really recognized for tons and tons of stuff. So when those come our way, embrace them fully. And so I just want to share that because I myself, I had that little moment of that, I guess, imposter syndrome, like, oh, am I deserving of this? And I was like, no, I am. And thank you. I received
Yeah.
this with gratitude.
And those moments really can come in all sizes. I mean, it can be as little as a compliment to
Yeah.
actual recognition. I had my godmother last week tell me that she listens to my podcast, and I cried. I was just like, oh
Oh,
my God, you listen to my podcast.
ah,
And it's like, and it was just a moment of, I can't believe. But, why not? Of course.
yeah.
And the more that we allow ourselves to receive that, the more the people around us give themselves that permission too. So it's not just about us when we choose to receive. And I love that you highlighted that. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, and congratulations to you. And I love that you received that well because yes, it's in everything. It's that compliment. It's that, taking an extra moment to look you in the eyes and say, "How are you, Amanda?
Yeah.
You really made a difference to me. Thank you." With our clients, when we receive accolades or our reviews from our clients, they all touch me so deeply. So,
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is touching. It's wild, and I
mhm.
think it's very human.
Yes,
I don't know that
yes.
we ever outgrow it, and I don't know that I ever want to fully outgrow it. I think it's keeping me in touch. It's nice.
Yeah, you probably hit on something there. There's probably that
Yeah.
delicate dance of, we don't want to get conceited because that's no good. That's my opinion. But yet at the same time, there's a lot of beauty in being humble and being vulnerable. And I think what we're talking about here is still deeply appreciating those and feeling everything that comes with it. I think that
Yeah.
is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have for our listeners today a really beautiful, intuitive led topic to explore, and I'm excited to dive in. And your big passion today was to share all about trusting the gut.
Yes. Yes.
What got you started down that garden path?
Yeah, well, many things, but I will start in probably the maybe most recent past that would explain why I'm here with you today and your beautiful soul. Um, so, trusting our gut is really important. And, there's so many different people. There's people that are led a little bit more by emotion, some that are led by, spirituality, analytical, all these types of things. And to me, whatever that is for you, following that and trusting that, I think is so important. So, as an example, and how I got into this line of work, so I was very blessed in that I had a beautiful 30-year corporate career, and I I think in those 30 years, gosh, I think it was only 5 positions that I had in 30 years. So I really, found a place and I kind of stayed there. So anyways, I had this one career that I loved. It was just, it was the best job in the world. I call it my fat cat job because I had a beautiful, beautiful salary. I had really killer benefits, as well as like a lot of soft benefits too. Loved the people there. But then most importantly, the work that I did had such depth and meaning. It was beautiful. And quite honestly, if I didn't have this experience, I would still be there
Mm.
and I would not be doing the work I'm doing right now. And so what had happened was I got a new boss, and she was, honest to goodness, I really think she was my first very obvious um, interaction with somebody who's a narcissist.
Oh,
And it was uh, it was very, very difficult. And I think we had 14 people in the department, and everyone but one of her direct reports left. because we had to leave while we could still walk and not
Yeah.
crawl because she just really squashed us. A lot of people ask me like, oh, well, do you have resentment towards her? And it's like, no, actually, I thank her. I really,
Mm.
really do thank her. But anyways, but
Yeah.
I was noticing that I just cannot stay here. And so I was going to look for a different job. And then I had the gut instinct that, you know what, wherever I go, there's always going to be this type, there's the potential
Mm.
that there can be this type of boss. So what can I do to gain control of my life and my days? And I really didn't know. And so I just kind of took stock in my life and you know what's happening around me and all that. And then I realized I'm like, and I guarantee you are too, Amanda, but I was that friend that everyone came to for a second thought, an opinion, advice, all that.
Mm.
And I thought, you know what? Why don't I legitimize myself and get certified as a life coach? So I did
Yeah.
that. And then I
That's what
was
I
seeing
was
a,
wondering because you are asking really soulful questions of yourself that people don't usually ask. And that's why people go to a life coach. But I think the moment that your story really enraptured me was you took pause to say, what can I do? Like, that's just so powerful, just right there. And then it's almost a soul knowing. And then when we
yes,
talk about like soul contracts and things like that on the woo spectrum of things, that narcissist was your catalyst,
yes,
but
yes.
only if we choose to alchemize it. And you did, which is wow, so
Oh,
powerful.
thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for the compliment on the questions. And that's something that I share with my clients a lot in on some of my YouTube videos. It is, if we want a better answer, we need to ask a better question,
Yeah.
and even of ourselves. And so yeah, maybe that's probably what I did at that time. Probably not conscientiously I did it at the time, but in hindsight, I guess so. Um, but yeah, so I started as a life coach, and I was doing that for a little bit of time, and it was good, but it wasn't enough. And so I'm not kidding you. So this is goes into how I became a hypnotherapist. It's a funny story. At that time, well, I guess I still do, but at that time, I would about once a year I would reach out to a psychic friend of mine, an intuitive, and I would get an annual reading and all of that. And so while she was giving me this reading, she knew I told her I was a life coach and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, yeah, she said, I'm feeling though that there's something more for you. Her exact words. And I can hear her voice in my head as I'm saying this. She's like, I'm seeing something like psychotherapy or hypnotherapy. And she even said it like that, like dragon,
Oh,
hypnotherapy. And honest to goodness, at that time, I had never heard either
yeah.
of those words. And so I'm writing them down really quickly and everything. And so then as soon as we got done with my reading, I first Googled psychotherapy because that was the first one she read, and I saw that, and it was like 9,000 years of schooling, and I was like, oh, I don't have 9,000 years. I need to leave this corporate job yesterday. So then I researched hypnotherapy, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is something I can do. And then I immediately Googled where I could get certified and all of that. So true story, that is how I literally stumbled into hypnosis.
Wow. But so for me, the immediacy of the action of you began just looking, there was no second guessing. There was um it's just okay, let's see what it's about. Let's let
Yes,
the gifts
yeah.
arrive.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And thank you for saying that, because I mean you're right on, because that is what going with your gut is. When you trust your gut, you're just you're just going to follow it, and there isn't really a lot of second guessing or anything like that, because it's when
Yeah.
we second guess, that's when we bring our our conscious mind into it, and that might not be always where we need to operate from.
Yeah, so I guess that part maybe we have left the somatic experience of the body and we've gone up to the mind level, and that's where we get trapped.
That's beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that.
When you were having that gut awareness of there's something else for me, what
Mhm.
was happening in your body?
Ah, as soon as you asked me that, boom, I took myself
Yeah.
back to this chair in the corner. I was sitting in this chair in my previous home. That's so funny. Immediately, you just
Wow.
catapulted me
Yeah.
back there. I love that. I'm a very feeling person, so I associate things like where I was when events
Yeah.
happened. So I am picturing myself. I literally was sitting at the edge of my chair, and I was, writing all with excitement. So I was feeling it. so funny that I can go back there right now. In my stomach, follow your gut, right? Trust your gut. I was
Yeah.
feeling it in my stomach, but it also like it would come up to my chest, like it was building up with excitement.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I love
Thank you
that.
for taking me
That
down memory
rising
lane.
sensation.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to bet that it began to like feel expansive. Like it, you know,
Yes.
fear doesn't
Yes.
feel expansive. We're crunched in.
Right, right. I say a lot of times it's like I
Yeah.
feel like I could jump out of my skin, and that's kind of, yeah, that
Oh,
expansiveness. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love that you were right there on the edge of your seat, learning about the new direction of your life. And you
Yeah.
didn't know that at that moment, but because then you chose to trust and put yourself out there, holy
Right.
crow, look at where it's brought you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and then on that note, well, our hypnosis community is
Yeah.
beautiful. I am trained to train others, to certify others in hypnosis, and that's the very first thing I tell them. I'm like, you are now entering into probably the most beautiful, loving, supportive community. And we don't say that lightly. And it's
Yeah.
just what was my point of saying? Oh, but anyways, so once I came into this space, see, and this is where I know I was divinely led to,
Yeah.
because I was meeting the people I needed to meet. I was meeting my mentors. I was meeting people that were, selling certain courses and things like that, that literally could take me and catapult me to the next level. But all of that, I was trusting my gut
Yeah.
fully.
So did you follow the excitement the whole way through?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I didn't, stop and wait. I had that feeling, and I guess I was definitely very much feeling led. And every single thing I'm like boom, thinking back on all my steps I took, and every single step, led me to where I am today.
I
So
have a feeling there's another book coming. Amanda doesn't know how to do superficial questions around here.
I love it. I love it.
Oh God. I need to come with a warning sign. That's the running joke lately. You need to come with a label.
Well, and you have such a beautiful, calming presence too. I mean, you
Thank
really,
you.
really do. It's beautiful.
So, were there moments of doubt or of fear? And when you recognized that that was possibly happening, what did you take it as?
Really being divinely led. I
Yeah.
really, really did. Once in a while, because certain trainings and things like that cost some money and that kind of thing. And so once in a while, like that price tag would be like, oh, should I do that right now? But I was just like, no, I really feel that I was led here, and I was led here for a reason, because there's a gazillion different places we could be led. And so I'm here, and this is just part of it. So and I have found too, all of the trainings I've taken, and additional certifications and things like that. I mean, they always pay dividends. And so also having the trust in that as well. So,
From where you came from, was there a foundational skill set that is benefiting you now?
that's a beautiful question. So in my 30-year career, I have had many different titles and things like that. But at the end of the day, probably everything I did would point to program management, project management. And, so being a project manager, you need to be very organized and diligent, and time management, attention management, that type of thing. And so, not that I'm perfect on it, trust me, but those, I think deeply rooted skill sets have really helped me out tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. And I've seen a lot of the programs you've made, a lot of the beautiful work you've put in. I can say I can see that attention to detail, that timeliness, that organization does come through.
Thank
It's
you
beautiful.
very, thank you very much. One other area, I was blessed when I was in corporate America, that I, for the most part, always had a supervisory, leadership role, and had direct reports and things like that. And so therefore I'm always very people centric, people focused. I know the importance of relationships and really good communication and that type of thing. So, one thing with leadership is I was fortunate, back during, because in corporate you have all these trainings and workshops as well. And so it's called the 5 exemplary qualities of leadership. And I love it. It is modeling the way, inspiring a shared vision. Oh goodness, I am going to forget the third
It's
one.
okay. I can cut it out,
Enabling
so just add in.
enabling others to act, encouraging the heart, and um, oh oh um, encouraging people to question the process. And I love that, and I really use that in almost every single thing that I do too.
Yeah. I can see why. That's an incredible kind of scope or filter to look at relating and communicating through, and I can see how that would be an asset everywhere,
Yeah.
especially now. Like post
Right.
COVID communication is mind boggling for me. I don't know what happened to us, but it was a lot of trauma, and so I can see why having that definitely helps everything go a whole lot more fluidly and more
Yes.
connectedly. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Challenge the process. That's number 3.
Oh, you got it.
I knew it would come back to me.
You got it. I didn't have any of them memorized whatsoever, so I wasn't coming to save you. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I
That's
wanted
all
to.
good. Yeah, you can see
Oh.
the wheels slowly turning.
It's human. Oh,
Yes.
goodness. So now that you are where you are, you do a whole lot of things. I know there was a while you were helping people in the process of rehabilitating themselves. Are you still?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am still doing that. Yes. Let me back that up for 1 second, about trusting our gut.
Yeah.
So back in 2020, I started a meetup group, and I was just led to do it. Honest to goodness, I don't even know how I even thought to do this. I really don't even know. Um,
Yeah.
but I know, it's coming back to me. Sorry. Maybe I should have had a second cup of coffee today. Sorry. um, so what happened was, when my children were little, I volunteered for a lot of things. I was my son's um, Cub Scout den leader. And then I was my daughter's softball coach, and things like that. And then when they outgrew those things, then I became a big sister of Big Brothers Big Sisters. And then when my little moved away, I found myself like, now what do I want to do? And I thought about, finding another little to be a Big Brother Big Sister with. But then I thought, you know what? Maybe I want to volunteer something in my space. That's what it was. And so then, I don't even know, I heard of Meetup, and I thought, oh, let me go put out a group here. And it's all about building your self-esteem and self-confidence. Sorry, my dogs are barking. And it's all about building that. And so what I decided to do was create this, and I do it free, and I hold it once a month. And I've been, again, doing it for 4 years now, and I absolutely love it. And so what ended up happening was, it was a year ago. Actually, it was a year ago tomorrow.
Oh.
July 11th, because it was the day before my birthday. That's why I remember it. I got a phone call out of the blue from somebody who created what's called WIS Hope, and it is an addiction recovery center here. And he was really just kind of calling around to find somebody who would come in and offer mindfulness classes. And as soon as he was telling me about it, I was excited. And so I was able to tell him that, hey, I've been doing this meetup group for 4 years, well, at that time, 3 years, but I have all sorts of content that is ready to go that I can bring to your classes, because I go there once a week. And so it's funny, things that we do sometimes that volunteer our time.
Yeah.
So anyone who's a little skeptical of volunteering or thinking you don't have time to volunteer, volunteering too pays dividends, because since I volunteered and I had all this content built up, I know that that was my selling point to this owner of WIS Hope, because he knew I was going to come to him with all of this content that I could help, his residents. Sorry, that was a little bit of a backstory, but I wanted to share that.
And then the skill set you developed on top of the library. Oh my God, you can't pay for that
Yeah.
kind of training of a 3-year putting in the work.
Exactly, right. And so, yeah, so at Wiz Hope, I go there once a week and I offer, it's 2 hours. I go once a week and it's all about mindfulness mastery. And you're in this space, Amanda. So, mindfulness, you can tackle that from a gazillion different points. And it's really, really rewarding. I absolutely love doing the work. So,
Oh.
yeah.
The thing that comes to mind and that I feel when I hear you talk about it, though, is how what I've seen you do over and over again is work with people at a foundation and really begin to build them up from the inside out. And it's just so beautiful. It's so compelling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is. I think, I talk about this in my book. I published a book back in 2020 as well. Boy, a lot of things happened in
That was a
2020.
big year.
Right.
That was a spirit led year.
Right. Because that numerology, that's a number 4.
Oh,
I don't know what number 4 means right now off the top of
number
my head
four
with
is
numerology.
very stable. That is stability, almost like a square,
Mm,
right? You've got all 4 points on the floor.
I love
So
that.
that's a
You're so
beautiful
knowledgeable.
foundation to build on. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for
And
that.
you did.
um, but one thing I talk about in my book though is about how, we are the only person we are going to take every single breath with. And so
Yes.
for that reason and that reason alone, we better love ourselves good. And
Yeah.
we have to be our own best cheerleader in this life. We have to nurture and care for ourselves because the more we are filled up, the more we can offer to other people.
That's right. And you guys have heard me say this over and over again, we can only give what we've received. And if we haven't been giving something ourselves, we don't have it to share. And it's the same from other people. They can only give what they allow themselves to have.
Mm,
So, yeah, expanding what we can receive and bring it out in the world even more so.
And I think that message is so important because so many people, and especially women, sorry if that sounds stereotypical, but it's Daniel Tosh, who's a comedian. He always says, "Well, it's not a stereotype if it's true." but women do tend to carry a little more guilt in that area. And so anyways, I think women need to hear that the time we put into ourselves is never being selfish because when we're full, we're a better partner, mom, daughter, sister, neighbor, colleague, all of that type of thing. And so when we can really look at it that way, it's that ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's again giving other people permission to do the same thing for themselves. I was never a better mom than when I made sure my needs were met before my feet hit the floor and before I checked on my little. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even if I was having a morning and I needed to let him know, you know what, I need 10 minutes of silence. As soon as that's done, I will come and find you and we will talk about what's next. What would you like to do for yourself in the next 10 minutes?
Yeah. I love that. See, modeling the way, right?
Yep.
You can
Well,
use that for anything.
if I didn't, I never would have gotten the 10 minutes. So, yeah. So there's
Funny.
so much that can begin to grow there. It's just wild.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when you do open yourself up to things, as far as trusting your gut and listening to things, one thing, this is a rather personal share, but I love it, and I'm hoping it might resonate with people on a couple of different ends. So this was 5.5 years ago. My dad was dying of cancer. Okay. And it was towards, I think at this point, maybe he only had it was like probably his last month of his life. And so I am one of 3 children. And so all of us kids got together and we created that calendar like, okay, you're there this night, I'm here this night, that type of thing. And so it was my very first drive. I had like an hour and a half drive. It was my very first drive to go to mom and dad's and spend the night and everything, on like that first shift, if you will, just to relieve mom and that type of thing. So anyway, so I show up and it was like a normal night. We sat around and we watched TV and went to bed. And I remember waking up the next morning and feeling really heavy, like my dad is dying and we're here. We know why we're here. and we're watching TV. Like, what is happening here? And so so then, okay, I drive home, and then a couple of days later, it was my second day to come. And I remember just praying out loud to, God, angels, my divine masters, everyone I pray to and everything. And I just said, my dad is dying. I don't know what to do. Not that I want to sit around and talk about dying, but I also don't want to watch TV. Can you please give me a sign of what I am supposed to do during Dad's last days on this earth? And then I said, but we don't have time. So you need to make it quick and you got to make it obvious. So anyone who prays, you can put in those requests. So I kid you not, I get to mom and dad's, and dad had a day that he really was kind of tired and stuff. And so I was probably there maybe half an hour. And he said, you know what, ladies, he said, I'm rather tired. I would like to go to bed. So mom and I go and we put him in bed, and, we're adjusting him so he's comfortable and stuff. And as we're doing that, kid you not, I'm seeing their headboard on their bed, and there is an unwrapped, or no, a wrapped, a wrapped Bible in the box. Like, it still had the cellophane over it. And I looked at this and I was like, are you kidding me? And so I was like, right away then, because you always have to give gratitude right away. I'm like, thank you for the quick and obvious sign. And so then I went back out and just chatted with mom for a minute. I said, I'm going to go spend my time with dad. And so I go in there and I said, Dad, I said, would you like for me to read you the Bible? You would have thought it was, he was 3 and it was Christmas and I gave him a puppy. I mean, he was like, yes, would you please? And my time there, the rest of my time, I spent the entire time reading him the Bible. And that is exactly what he wanted. And it was such a beautiful thing to do. We had the most intimate, beautiful time in the world. So I share this with people. 1, totally trusting your gut. 2, like, you can put in requests, make it quick and make it obvious for those times that you need to when you're praying. But then also, 2 things that you can do when someone's dying and you don't know what to do. Because I did both of these with my dad. 1, I read him the Bible after getting his permission, but then also I gave him a massage every time I saw him. I always had lotion with me. I would give him, the hand rub, a foot rub, all those kind of things, because that human touch is so important. And you can do so much more with touch than words. It was beautiful.
But all in all, it sounds like you made room, you asked, you had a moment of surrender of, hey, I don't know. So I'm going to be okay with not knowing. That makes me open to guide. Show me.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for that. Yeah. It's, yeah, because I didn't know the answer. Clearly, I didn't know what to do, but yet I knew watching TV didn't feel right. So again, I listened to my gut on that, and I just I'm so thankful for that time. So thankful. Yeah.
And I would imagine that him being in that position to just receive, because I know sometimes when we're sick, we're not feeling good, even though we know that should be our time to rest. That's a hard thing to do, especially when we have children, whether they're adult or not. There's that part of us that wants to connect and engage, but when you're not well, that's a lot of pressure. So, what a gift to have given him to have taken that pressure off, and but still allowed him
Yeah.
to receive your
Yeah.
words, your energy, your warmth, your touch, that
Yeah.
support.
Well, and I have to tell you, so talk about the ripple effect. The only reason I had the idea for the massage and the touch is because 6 months prior, my sister-in-law died of cancer, and she had such a loving, beautiful community. And so on her last few days and weeks, we would all be in the hospice center where she was, and I would see all of her friends come in, and they did that. And that was where I got the idea. So that's something else too. Like, never be shy or afraid to do what you do, because we're modeling the way. We're right. I mean, we're doing all those things. And because although I'm so sad to have lost Kelly as well, that was a moment that I was able to learn something and immediately apply it to my life.
Yeah. Aw. So if someone was just beginning on this journey for themselves, what would be like the foundation step you would offer them to start with?
What journey specifically? I want to make sure I'm answering your
Learning
question.
to trust their gut, really opening, because for me, that was really building a relationship. Um, I felt for a long time a little separate from my gut at times, and other times I would have identified my gut as being my limbic system or my nervous system, or
Mm,
and other times it feels different. It feels more intuition. It feels more spiritual. I don't know that my gut feels the same every time. And so if someone is hearing your story and they're like, wow, I want to be led, I want to feel more confident, more empowered in the choices I make, I don't know where to start.
yeah,
What would you offer them?
yeah. I'm going to answer that, but as you were talking, I'm having a recollection of something I want to share. Because our gut talks to us both in the positive and the negative. And I'm not kidding you. Um, this might be a little too much information, but there was a time in my life, honestly, the time in my life was when I was married the first time. And he was a lovely man. He's the father of my kids, and he was a lovely man. But
Yeah.
it I just knew that I was going to be asking for a divorce, and it took me a long
I
time
think I
to.
had one of those moments, in fact, on my wedding day.
Oh, see?
The first time. Yeah. And it wasn't just that it was going to rain that day, there was something else, and I chose not to listen.
Exactly. Exactly. And so what happened with me, I lived with it for a while. And so, and this is the too much information, but my
Yeah.
gut was talking to me in a negative way. I, honest to God, used to carry around a bottle of Pepto-Bismol in my purse because I
Oh,
needed it constantly. Sorry, that's a little too much information, but I'm being vulnerable
no,
and real.
that's a very
But
practical thing to know of, hey, the things that you're needing to get by every day are
seriously.
speaking to you of what's not working.
Seriously. And
Yeah.
if you can imagine why I need Pepto, why I needed it, that tells you a lot about what my gut was telling me and I was ignoring. I mean,
Yes.
so our bodies, and you know this, you're the master of this, Amanda, but our bodies just tell us so much. Um, so
So, from a
go on.
different frame, because you brought me back to my history as well, I never had anxiety attacks before I got engaged. And then, like clockwork, I would have them every week.
Right, right. There's a reason why we have these things, right? Because that's the thing. And I'm sure you tell your clients the same thing, but it's like, a lot of people think, oh, anxiety's bad. Like, oh, I don't want anxiety. I don't want anger. I don't want hurt. No, these things tell us
Yeah.
something. And so stop and listen. When you have a little heart palpitation, when your gut does the butterfly or does like that, oh, that punch in the gut,
Yeah.
when you're having some bathroom issues, when you are having headaches, I mean, your body is communicating with you. So don't sweep it under the rug. As uncomfortable as it is, sit
Yeah.
with it. I mean, truly, in hindsight, I mean, now I know this stuff so clearly with that time in my life, but honest to goodness,
Yeah.
that time in my life, I just thought it was kind of the foods I was eating. But then that's silly to even say that out loud because I remember at that time saying, I don't understand why this is happening to me because I'm eating pretty clean and I'm not eating foods that would tend to make my belly respond to this.
Yeah.
But it was telling me something. So very, very interesting. Um, so with that really gross conversation to segue into answering your
It's very
question.
human. We're all in it. We can judge it or we can just say, "Yep, I'm a human being."
Exactly, exactly. But to answer that question though is I would say just slow down just a little bit. And I tell people this at the Addiction Recovery Center, just slow down. So often A happens and we've got to do B, A, B, and it's like, oh, just slow down for just a minute. And so when we slow down just even for a split second, that's when we can connect with our mind and our body and our spirit. And then in doing that, then we can say, we can question things and and then sometimes peeling that onion a little bit, but that's okay. And then when you do that, you tap into that and say, my stomach's kind of a little funny right now, and trace it back, like what other times was it funny? What's that common denominator? But then also the positive, like I'm having some butterflies and this feels good. When were other times I have butterflies? And then recalling those things, because then even if people have trouble trusting their gut and really having faith in that, I think history tells us stuff. So when we can identify all the other times we had those beautiful butterflies and we followed them, hey, history is giving me that education and that confirmation to trust.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So what I heard was become present. If I was going to reframe it, you got to be present. You got to be here now and observing. Yeah,
Yes, observing that.
yeah.
Thank you for doing that sum. Yeah, observing. That is so key, isn't it?
Yeah, because then you can move into acceptance of, okay, this is what it is. I don't have to like it. We talked about that the other week with surrender, but we have to come to that place of what's real and
Yeah,
what is it asking of me? What am
yeah,
I asking of it?
right.
Where do I want it to go?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's beautiful.
And then, like all healing modalities, I heard that curiosity is next.
Yes, yes. I talk a lot, on my YouTube channel and with clients and stuff like that about being curious. To me, I like to talk about wonder thinking. Sometimes people might struggle with getting curious, but then when you can start to incorporate wonder thinking, so anyone listening to this, if you are working that corporate job and you really aspire to have something that's like, I wonder what it would feel like to get a 10% raise this year. I wonder what it would feel like to have that corner office. I wonder what it would feel like to be a supervisor and have that really key, very responsible job of supervising others, and knowing how important that is. Because I like to say, when you ask questions, we go to find the answer. So I might have said this at the beginning, but if we want, a better answer, ask better questions. And then when you ask that, your mind just naturally, you're going to go and look for that answer. So when you have that wonder thinking, you're going to wonder your way to your own success.
Oh, I love that so much. Wonder your way to your own success. That is so beautiful. And I heard you
That,
go into a place of being like a tapped in manifester because then we're inviting that whole conversation with soul, with spirit, with source, or our gut to kind of come forward and co collaborate with us.
you know what? You just hit on something. Okay. So, most people know about manifesting and the law of attraction, which is beautiful. And, those in the space, we know it works. I talk a lot, though, about the law of vibration, because the law of
Mm-hmm.
vibration actually precedes the law of attraction. And what that is, vibration, you're feeling it. But isn't this funny? You just hit on something, because, like, we're talking about our gut, trusting your gut, because your gut is fluttering, or it's doing something. There's some kind of movement going on in your gut. And so some kind of vibration, right?
There's a visceral conversation happening. Yeah.
Oh, you just tapped into something there. I love that. You're a very deep individual. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
receive
Yeah.
that.
So, yeah, it's just interesting how many places we can go when we start with just those foundational steps of here's where I'm at. Huh. Where do I want it to go? What could it open up to? And then whether you go to that place of manifesting and dialoguing with the gut in the way that we just talked about, or whether you're figuring something out of what is this pattern that keeps replaying, we can kind
Yeah,
of track through it either way in the same place.
right, right. Yeah, for sure. And again, that's about kind of quieting down a little bit, right? Just settling on down and not always running, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to tell you is a little hard for me, because I tend to be a squirrel chaser. Um, but that's something I'm too am being more mindful of, because it's like, okay, I don't have to chase every squirrel. And two, when I'm chasing a squirrel, there's others getting away. And so where do I want to
Yeah.
put my attention on what squirrel? So Lifelong learning, right? Self-learning as well as learning and teaching.
The whole thing is just an experience. And we learn by doing. It's
Yes.
never a missed opportunity, even when I've said no to things that may have been for me, or when I said yes to things that definitely weren't for me. I definitely learned.
Yes, without a doubt. Well, and I've been hearing a lot on that lately. I listen to podcasts all the time, and I'm kind of on a streak right now. And it's so funny because many people that I'm listening to, it's about saying no.
Yeah.
Because when we say no, we get to say, well, there's a couple things with saying no. One, we get to say yes to the right things, but also when we say no, we give someone else the opportunity to get to say yes.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And I don't know that I've ever looked at that from that perspective before.
I have a visual in my head when I say that, and I'm going to date myself again. That's okay. So when my kids were little, we used to have cake walks. Like it would be a fundraiser. Like people would
Yeah.
bring in cakes, and however it went, like there were numbers. Like the kids would have to walk around in a circle, and all the cakes were labeled with a number. And so they would play music, and then they would stop. And so whatever number you were on, you got to go and get that cake. And we should do that at a hypnosis conference because now cake sounds good to me. But
I know
anyways,
Dan happens to be serving some at Michigan Hypnosis, and I think you might be able to convince him.
all right, let's talk to him. But anyways, so sorry, this is a longer story than I'm intending. But
It's okay.
but I have the cakewalk as an example because
Yeah.
moms or parents would volunteer to make the cakes. And so, if you're a good baker, it's like, hey, Amanda, could you make 3 cakes for us? And since you enjoy doing it and you're good at it and you're generous, you're going to be like, yes, yes, I can. Well, what if there's a new mom over here, Susie, who would really love to make a cake, but you're so good at it, they ask you to do it. And you always say yes because you say yes. Well, then here's this new mom that doesn't have the opportunity to do it when maybe that's what she wants.
And maybe
Right?
it's not even about the cake, and she just wants to be part of the community and really needs that opportunity to show up. Oh, I love it so much.
I love that addition to it. That's great.
Yeah, because we look at it so one dimensionally sometimes, but um, everybody's doing something, and it's because they're trying to meet some kind of a need.
Right.
And
Right.
whether they've identified that need for themselves or not, more often not, it's still there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah.
We're so quick to make goals and to have a vision board, and we're not so quick to say, ooh, if I really want this, what do I need to scale back on? What do I need to let go of the gas somewhere so that I can apply it somewhere else?
Yeah.
I don't know why that's not like a full on chapter when you go to coaching school.
I
It
know.
needs to
I
be.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think some of it, not making an excuse at all,
Yeah.
but I think some of it is just, societal, like the more you
Yeah.
do, the more you have, like there's some kind of
Yeah.
thing tied to that. So that's why I'm loving that minimalism is becoming a real thing now. And there's,
Yeah.
YouTube channels on it and people talking about it all the time, because to me, I think there's such
Yeah.
beauty in that.
And it's also a balance. I, at one point, went way too far into minimalism, and I started missing the joy in life. When I'm
Mm,
having to decide, do I keep my arts and crafts supplies because I don't like the untidiness of it? And then I'm making less art, and I'm like, wait a minute, where's my sunshine? Where's my inner joy? I packed it all away for a aesthetic. So
yes.
we can always swing too far, whether that's working towards a goal, saying yes to something, saying no to something. And so coming back to how can I do this even keeled and balanced and present, like really
Well, and
be conscious. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's when it's knowing yourself and being comfortable in who you are and not letting those outside influences influence you. I mean,
Yeah.
we can always take things as a thought and a suggestion and oh, hey, maybe I want to consider that. But we don't have to always meet it at that same level. Yeah, that's quite interesting. I think there's a lot to be, said and learned with that.
Is that part of your process when you're coaching people though? Is, oh hey, you went a little far to the left there. Is that comfortable, or do you want to adjust a tiny bit back to the right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it definitely is because it's always like, where are you? Where do you want to be? What's that bridge look like that takes you from here to there? And then also, but also, um, how can you maintain and sustain that? Because it's one thing to take a
Yes.
path to reach a goal, but then okay, I've got this goal, so now what? And how can I maintain this? That's one thing. So anyone listening to this, so whether you're a coach or hypnotherapist, if this is a new idea to you, there's very seldom new ideas anymore. But if you haven't heard this concept before, you have my permission to steal it. But also, if you're a listener, where and when you can do this yourself, please do it. But so I think we've all heard of Simon Sinek's book, The Power of Why, and I think he's got a great TED talk on it too. But so it's important. Like, what is your why? Why do you want something? And then I love doing that 7 layers deep exercise. So whatever your answer is, you turn that into a question, and then you get a new answer. And then you
Yeah.
take that answer and you turn it into a question. And it's hard. It is so hard. But that's the point, because when you get to that last answer, it's gold. I do this a lot with my weight loss clients because a lot of times their why is, well, my son's wedding is next year. That's a beautiful why. It's a beautiful why. However, what's going to happen on the day after the wedding? You know what I mean? And when you really get to the depth of it, that why is so much stronger than the wedding. But then what I love to ask people though is, who are you going to be once you reach this goal?
Yes.
Because that who, I think the why maintains you.
Yeah.
Maintains you to reach that goal, but then that who
Mhm.
sustains you to keep that goal forever.
Yes. I actually got this a weird little synchronicity. We're having all kinds today.
Good, good, good.
Last weekend was a celebration of a friend who had gotten married, a friend we have in common, incidentally. And she and I had done a weight loss group the summer before. And I got validation a year later that me asking that same 7 layer, but in reverse, of if
Oh,
you weren't this, what would that mean about you? And that
oh, I
lady
love
had a
that.
breakthrough as a result. So no matter which way you play with that on, it
I
has the
love
potential
that.
to really get them down to the need and, oh,
Yeah,
what needs of other people are you managing by being this thing?
yeah.
And in her case, she was protecting a loved one from feeling bad about themselves. And it's like, well,
Mm,
does harming your health in this way actually do them any favors? You won't be able to
wow.
be there if they need you one day. Boom.
That's beautiful. See, you're a genius. I love that, Amanda. That's
We can
really
play with it
great.
either way, but it is
Yeah.
a very deep process. I didn't realize it was called that, but I had remembered it.
Yeah.
And it is true.
Yes.
It does get harder the deeper we go, but it's very journal worthy.
Oh,
Absolutely.
it is. It is. And it's definitely something you can do on your own, but working with a coach is
Yeah.
great with it, or just call a girlfriend and
Yeah.
just go through
Well,
it that way.
a well trained coach isn't going to take your ego BS.
Well, you're right. You're
We're going to
right.
call you out and say, is there a little more there?
Yes, exactly. That's the value of a good coach, right?
Yeah, no, I happen to know you're a very capable human being. Let's go a little deeper.
Yes, yes, most definitely. Well, where I developed the who concept was, so my personal story is
Yeah,
back in 2020. Look at this year, 2020.
I know.
So I lost 47 pounds
Oh,
and felt great, felt like $1 million and all that stuff because I had a really strong why. And so I met my goal. But then I ended up, after about 18 months, I gained back about 15 pounds. And I mean, talk about being frustrated. Hello, I'm a hypnotherapist, a life coach, and a health coach, and I gained back this weight. Um, being vulnerable and being true and human though. But it actually was a good thing that happened, because now that's how I developed this who question. Because my why drove me, but then if I would have asked my question back then, who are you going to become, is a 50-pound lighter version of you. You're a different person, even being that person who, has that corner office. I mean, it's not like you're a totally different person, but,
yeah,
but you are different in a way. So,
absolutely.
So a
Yeah.
50 pounds lighter version of me, I feel better. I have more energy. So
Mhm.
that's why I would be different. And so since I didn't tap into that, had I, my answer would have been, I'm going to be more adventurous. Adventurous to me is hiking, biking, kayaking, all these different things. So then I would have been doing those things while I was losing the weight, so that
Mhm.
once I lost the weight, it was who I was. I'm already this
Right.
person,
That's right.
right?
Your patterns, your priorities, the way you spend your time, your energy are all going to change.
Yeah.
And that can be part of the solution baked in. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's so good. It's so good. I can't believe we're already coming up on almost an hour. I could talk
I
to you forever. There's just so much to dig into and explore.
Yeah,
So,
this is
what is
fun.
something that you're working on right now that you're really excited about? That's a big piece of your heart, your why, and your who.
Yes. Um, well, because I'm a squirrel chaser, I'm working on a lot of different things. But right now I am offering it's called Now What? It is for women, middle-aged women
Yeah.
who have found yourself in a new environment for you. So whether you're an empty nester, whether a relationship has changed in some way, and you actually have a little bit more spare time and energy and maybe money, and you're like, now what do I do with this time? And so it's called Now What? It's about helping people to discover their next chapter and allowing women who are ready to prioritize themselves. So it's going to be a 4 class workshop. It's going to be every Wednesday night in the month of August. So it's coming up very soon. And so what we're going to do is, one, we're building a community. Everyone who's going to be a part of it, we're really going to build a very strong community because that's so important. And then we're also going to, find out, what is it that you want to tap into? Really kind of strip down, who are you? What do you want? And,
Yeah.
kind of like how I asked that question of me back when I knew I was going to leave corporate, like, what am I
Yeah.
naturally good at? And, do that inventory, do some building up, for where and when we need to do that with that confidence in yourself. And it's going to just cover a nice variety of things. But I want people to picture themselves coming in lost and confused, but then
Yeah.
leaving feeling connected and fulfilled. And so, if anyone's interested in that, I know you were going to drop it in the show notes, and I appreciate that. But please use the coupon code My Friend. Make it one word, My Friend, and you get $50 off at the point of checkout.
Yeah. So if that's you, if you're feeling lost, confused, in transition, maybe want some community, some connection, it sounds like that's what Connie's got for you.
Thank you. What are you working on right now?
What am I working on? I don't know. Guests never ask me questions. I am actually in the middle of a transition. Like I said, I am taking that hiatus from the salt cave. What I'm aware of is I changed my vibe, and now I have to change my tribe.
Oh, I love that.
And we always look at it from someone's vibe dropping, and then they're not fitting in the tribe. But conversely, you can raise your vibe and then not fit in the tribe. And so I had a very visceral real awakening to that around the fourth, and it's like, oh, I see this now. And I've actually had a couple of clients validate that for me of, oh, you're going to change this. Yes, I've been waiting for you to get to that point where you're really working out of your energy and not adjusting your energy. And I thought, ooh.
I
Wow.
really
Well,
love
thank you
that.
for that as a client for giving me that insight, because that gives me room to go play with following my gut instincts and my intuitions. So I'm aware right now. I'm practicing my presence.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little curious and I'm seeing little synchronicities, and I'm just waiting to see where it's going to go.
Oh,
There are so many things to play with and there's no shortage. So I'm just excited and can't wait to see, because I have no idea.
right. Oh, that's beautiful. I think that's
Yeah.
fabulous.
But kind of like you, there is that initial discomfort of, you had the really comfortable job, you'd had job security, you'd had a lot of benefits that felt really good. And so I'm trying not to dwell on the little convenience and comforts. And instead, I'm saying, universe wants to offer better. I'm making
Yeah.
room.
Yeah. Well, and knowing, so what I like to say is these ideas get dropped in from somewhere. Where
Right.
would that be?
Yep.
But they get dropped in from somewhere. And if those ideas pop in your head, then that means you have everything you need. And even if you don't have it right now, you have the resources to find it and get it. So it really is a calling then. So any ideas that pop in your head, it's your calling to, because if it came into your mind, you have the capability to fulfill it.
It had been a couple of weeks where I was questioning, how do I make a bigger impact? I love working with people in the Salt Cave. I love seeing people one on one. How do I bring more healing? How do I bring more change? And there
Mm.
were a couple of, there was a local rehab that was kind of poking around my social media, and I thought, interesting. And I'd heard that before. Similar to you, I'd had a psychic reading a while ago and told me I would work with children and addiction. And I said, too close to home. No, thank you.
Wow.
But I think I am actually arriving at the place now where I can hold capacity entirely for that and stand firm in who I am.
I have
So
goosebumps even
we'll
down
see.
my thighs. I have goosebumps everywhere when you're saying that. Yeah.
But we'll
Yeah.
see what wants to happen. And I'm just open to having fun and exploring. And there are so many times I could easily go into that place of, oh, but what if? And oh, that's a little uncomfortable. What if someone wants to come for a 5 hour session? I'm not going to have them to my home. I've got 4 dogs. You don't want to be here.
Or that's the place you want to be, one place or the other.
Right. Yeah. So, I could be in that. I could stay in that. But instead, I'm going to, what was it you said? Your
Oh, I'm
wonder
going to
moment.
wonder think myself
Your
to
wonder think. That's right.
success. Or I can't
That's
remember.
right. So I'm wonder thinking of what actually wants to arrive.
Hmm.
Something wants to arrive that's bigger, that's better. I can feel it, I can smell it, I can taste it. I'm just waiting till it arrives and then I'll see it.
And you have such a beautiful, loving heart. You can feel it. And yeah, I'm feeling
Yeah.
spirit led. That's something that's coming in my mind for you. And yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love
And
what you said about the tribe and all that. I'm sorry,
yeah.
what you were going to say something.
No, continue and then I'll jump in after.
So the other thing that I'm working on, you spurred my memory with this. So we moved here to Wisconsin 2.5 years ago, and I'm really blessed. We have this a hobby farm, and so we're on a couple of acres, and we have a lot of buildings, and so that's why my office is here on our property, it was beautiful. But we've got this huge dairy barn, this monster huge dairy barn, and the people before us gutted it. So it's just like this big open canvas, and it's 3 stories. It's the coolest building in the
Wow.
world. So I'm naming our property Sacred Acres, and I
Aw.
am creating sacred self retreats.
Ah.
And we're in the process of getting the barn tightened up and that type of thing, and getting the barn cleaned out right now and stuff like that. But I'm hoping to be able to hold at least one, if not two, yet this year. But next year, I want to hold them regularly, and I want them to be like that place that people go like, oh, I
Yeah.
need my Sacred Acres moment. And I want to switch it up a little bit so that people can repeat, um,
Mhm.
or at least give them enough of a variety that I just want it to be a place where people can come and just literally fill their cup, so that
Yeah.
they can go back out into their communities and fill others, and then come back the month later and fill it some more, and that type of thing. So really building that, like you
Yeah.
said, a tribe for sure.
And it also speaks to like creating that safe, secure place where people
Yes.
can come back to themselves and say, what is real for me right now?
Yeah.
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 I love that.
Definitely.
And that's so needed now. It's so needed. And especially in the way that you do it, because you are very connecting with people. I love hearing your presentations at the different conferences we've met at.
Thank you.
That's something that you do so beautifully. So Sacred Acres is just perfect.
Oh, thank
Just
you.
perfect.
Thank you. It's funny. I never in a million years ever thought, oh, I want to be a teacher when I grow up. But I love,
Yeah.
because I view all the stuff
Yeah.
I do as teaching,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love it. I really feel like that, even though I have credentials of, okay, I'm a hypnotherapist and a coach and stuff, it's like under the heading of a teacher. And,
Yeah.
and I love that.
Aw. So, what other spaces do you currently have for people virtually? I know a good part of my listeners are actually here in Ohio. So, if someone is interested, they're not sure what to look at. I know you've got that wonderful YouTube channel. Do you also have other events?
Yes, thank you. So I mentioned Meetup earlier, and so one of the links takes you to every place that I am, and on there will take you directly to my Meetup group. And I meet the first Thursday of every month, and it's all about building self-esteem, self-confidence. That's free. I do periodically have such as like this workshop I mentioned. I do have some digital products that I have as well. So for anyone who is a coach and a hypnotherapist, it's $27, but I have a product out there about how to grow your clients' credibility and content using Meetup. So I have just different things, and that's all on my website. I do. So probably just my website contains everything, because even my website has a link to my monthly
Yeah.
Meetup group. So, but then my YouTube channel, I've been working on that for a couple of years, and I come out every Monday with a Monday morning motivational video, try to keep them, 10 minutes or less. And so I'm always trying to find ways to give back. And then my Facebook page, and I just started TikTok. I didn't think I was going to jump on the TikTok bandwagon, but I was like, yeah, I might as well, right?
I
Squirrel.
like that for you, actually, because you've got very dynamic, fun, playful energy. I could see that being wonderful. Yeah. Or you
Thank
being
you.
wonderful for TikTok, for sure.
Well, what I've been using TikTok for is, so I do have 4 published books. So the one book is
Yeah.
uh, after my company name, but since it's a book, I spelled it correctly. So it's BU to be full. But then I actually have a collection of 3 other books. It's called Openness. And so what these are they're just really short reads. And so I'm actually reading them on TikTok and kind of serving as like a daily
Oh.
devotional or, divination tool almost, that you can like just open it up randomly, and whatever you read about, have that serve as kind of your guide for the day.
Connie, that's almost like reading to your dad again.
Oh,
I mean, look at it.
oh,
Look at it.
oh, I love
Except you're doing it for millions of people all over TikTok who
that. Is
definitely
so
probably need
beautiful.
that vibration boost. That is beautiful.
That is, thank you so much. So speaking of that, I want to give 2 people a plug. So Claudia Ricard, I think you know
Yeah,
her. She was at Michigan last year.
absolutely.
She's so sweet. She's got her great Facebook page. And
Yeah.
so she read a chapter, not a chapter, but I've got an acronym using the word courage. And she read that on her Facebook page today. And I was so appreciative of that. But then I have to tell you, so Randy Light, she, the reason I even came up with this openness book is because 2 years ago, I think I'm really lucky in that, like, I can see a picture and it,
Mhm.
honest to God, it talks to me. And so I started by making memes by these pictures I would take. And then now that advanced, because now I look at my memes and then it talks to me and it gives me a longer story. And so that is what I started posting every morning on Facebook. Well, Randy Light saw it and she just texted me one day and she's like, Connie, she said, this is beautiful. This is full of wisdom. You should put it into a book. And I
Yeah.
sat there, I'm like, oh my God, why did I not think of that? So I
Yeah.
I
Because we're
compiled them
too
all, and I had so
close.
much
Yeah.
material that it created 3 different books.
Sometimes we're just too close to see anything else. And when you're in the middle of that download, it can be just so wild to receive.
Yeah.
So yeah, proximity is blinding sometimes.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that is why it's so
Yeah,
important to, going back to the tribe and the community and
yeah,
friends that you have, like those friends that are
yeah.
dear to you. I mean, they are gold,
Mhm.
because it's like, look at how much we give to each other, and it's
Yeah,
priceless.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think that's why you're building a tribe. I'm building a community with this, this now what course that I'm doing, and,
yeah,
what I want to do here at Sacred Acres. And it's all because that's our lifeline to some huge degree.
yeah,
And we all have different stories with families and friends and things like that. And so, and to me, I'm finding that those girlfriends that I am meeting is at middle age. Oh my God. I mean, they're just beautiful.
yeah. Are you seeing yourself where you were like 2 or 3 years ago, or since 2020 keeps coming up? Are
I
you seeing
know.
you in 2020?
God, that's so funny.
What's
Am
even
I
more
see?
wild is we're 4 years out and you had four in 2020. It's just fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. Wow. See, and this is why when we have friends and when we talk and we share, that talking out loud, we have our own
Yeah.
realizations. I do, on that note, I tell my clients, I'm like, walk around your house and just talk to yourself. Who cares if someone thinks you're crazy? Because there's something about that spoken word. You hear it differently, you
Yeah.
receive it differently, but also be mindful of your words. You know that.
Yeah.
But I think talking out loud is just like, just like today, both of us have said certain things that like, oh, wow, that was kind of
Yeah.
nice.
And if
Um,
if you're saying something and you're not fully secure in it, you're going to hear that quiver in your voice.
yes,
You can't unhear it. And then you're like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable with this.
exactly.
It's a definite knowledge that you can't return. It's like, oh,
Right.
now I need to make a choice. Yeah.
Exactly. Don't you feel so honored and blessed to do the work that we do?
Over and over and over again. And even when I think that it can't be more fulfilling, there'll be a deeper layer that starts to unveil. And sometimes it's really weird because you might have some of those clients that are very instant in their growth and their healing and their change, and they're quick and they're enthusiastic and they tell you about it. But those aren't always the ones that win me over and really bring me that deeper sense of fulfillment. It's the ones that are, hey, 5 years ago, you changed my life. Like those are the ones where I'm just like, I'm dead. I'm done. I'm
Right.
toast.
Right.
Couldn't ask for more, but it's just such a different dynamic to anything
Yeah.
else. And had you
Yeah.
asked me when I was a little girl, I wouldn't have said coach. I wouldn't have said hypnotherapist. In fact, I think I said an attorney like Ally McBeal or like Dr. Phil, but no prescriptions. But I
Okay.
didn't know hypnotherapist. I didn't know coach. Those
Yeah.
weren't terms that were used. So even when we ask a child, what do you want to be? There is a thread in there they are pulling on, even if it doesn't have a name yet.
Yes. Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. Just hearing you say that, I had a visual in my head, and it was just about just like just sitting and just being calm and patience and all of that. And there was beauty in that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just surrendering to now because I don't think we can miss it. You know, like when you talked about your 30-year career and all of the skills and everything you developed, the way that you came through it with the personal development spin on it and really building communication and connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, you couldn't have missed your path because it was all building, even though you didn't feel right at that moment like it was all there.
Right.
Granted, yours kind of unfolded very quickly. Mine has been slower and a whole lot more windier and twistier. At one point, I thought I'd be a graphic and web designer. I say it's a past life. But I think part of my soul knew, hey, kid, you're going to need this skill. Let's
Yes.
get this front loaded for you. Yeah.
Right, right, right. It is funny, like the paths we take. It's when you were talking, I had a flashback. I actually talk about this in my BU book, and it is it was my very first corporate job. And I had a boss. I started as an admin assistant, and I had two bosses, and the one I loved and the one, well, I didn't like. But you know, it's so funny. Those people you don't like, they're the ones that when you and please people like do this like don't take things personally, but
Right.
when you can turn around and look, you're like, oh my god, that one that like poked my buttons every day, I
Yeah.
thank you because you helped me be who I am right now today, and it's such a beautiful thing. But we just did not mesh at all personality wise. And I mean, if anyone can't tell from this podcast, but it's like I'm very talky, and like Monday morning, hey, how you doing, how's your weekend, and stuff like that. Well, he was very analytical. So it was like he didn't even want to see my face unless I was giving him work that I had done. I mean, and so I was young too, and I took it so personally. And I know hate is a strong word, but I was young and dumb, and I probably did hate him.
Yeah.
And I was barking about it to a colleague, and she gave me exactly what I needed. She listened to me complain for a while, but then
Yeah.
finally she's like, I'm done listening to you. You need to figure
Yeah.
this out yourself. And I recommend you read this book. And the book is called Personality Plus. There's two books,
Mhm.
Personality Plus and Personality Profile. Litwire is the last name, and it was written by a mother-daughter. Well, I resonated with it because their personality style is my personality style. And so that's why I was like, oh, I can embrace this. That's why Myers-Briggs don't get that at all because it's not my style. But
Yeah.
anyways, so I read this book and I was like, oh, I could see in black and
Yeah.
white where he was and where I was, and we were total opposite. And I'm like, no wonder he hates
Yeah.
me. He thinks I'm some dimwit,
Yeah.
just chatty Cathy. And then I think he's some like stodgy old jerk. And so once I read this book, so not only did it show the personality styles, but most importantly, it showed how do you work with the person of the opposite style.
Yeah.
Well, I started applying every single thing I read. And one day he made himself vulnerable too, because one day I came
Yeah.
into his office and he like looked at me and he's like, what happened to you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I knew what he meant, but
You're not
I was
playing
like, what are
ping
you
pong in this dynamic that I was thriving off of. Where did that go?
Yeah, exactly. And so I decided right then and there, though, I'm going to make myself vulnerable. And so I told him, I said, you know what, John? Oops, there's his name. But I said, you know what, John? I said, we did not see eye to eye on anything, and I
Yeah.
did not like it. And I wanted to take matters into my own hands. I read this book, and I learned that I was approaching your personality style, my way and not your way. And I started to change that. And then, and so prior to that, there was a promotion that he didn't even look at me for. But then, sure enough, later I ended up getting a promotion because he saw that I really meant business. Now,
That's
some
really
people,
gratifying. That's a total win. Yeah.
well, and some people listening to this might be like, well, why did you do all the work? Well, you know what? I did all the work because one, I mean, I like to say, look at where I am now. And, I feel like I'm not even, I don't think anyone's fully enlightened or anything like that, but I feel like that life lesson that I had has touched on so many aspects of my life. And it was such a deep learning. But also, if you want something to change, you need to do the work. No one can
Mm.
do it for you. So,
That is a journal worthy exercise for sure. Of if you'd had a nemesis and they were actually your secret best friend, how would they be encouraging you to grow?
mm,
That could be one for
an-
the retreat. Just saying.
I love that. Thank you so much. Again, your depth and your genius. Thank you for that.
It is playtime all the time over here. That's what I'm committing to.
It's beautiful.
Thank you so, so much for joining me today. And if there's one big thing that you really want listeners to hear and to take away today, what would that be?
My favorite quote in the world that has become my life's motto, and it's by Frank Scully. I think he's an author. And the quote is, why not go out on a limb? Isn't that where the fruit is? I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And I think everything we're talking about today, we are talking about going out on a limb and that fruit, trusting our gut, doing things differently, digging a little deep, all of that. Yeah.
It almost brings me back to there was another quote, and I don't know who's responsible for it, but what if I fall? But darling, what if you fly?
Yes, yes,
Same
yes.
same vein, but you're never
Yeah.
going to know if you don't give yourself a little bit of grace and curiosity and have those I wonder moments.
Right. Well, and I always say, God, if you fail, if you fall down, damn, you got a good story, you
That is
know?
true too.
And then that's a teaching moment for somebody else. And so to me, it goes back to, our classic NLP line, as far as, there's no failure, it's all feedback. And that's what it is. And then when we share our feedback that we got, we are drastically helping somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really so grateful for how vulnerable and authentic you've been, how fun this conversation has been. I miss you already, and we're not even done. I've very much enjoyed you and your energy today. Thank you so much. Remind me again of the exact website for you, just in case someone's listening and they can't quite write it down.
Sure. Thank you so much. Because really everything I talked about is on my website, even a link to my books and all that stuff. It is Connie Jo Holmes, ConnieJoholmes.com.
Okay. And so that's how you find Connie, the meetups, the communities, the connections, the books. And if you are feeling gut led to go and explore, you already know that we are going to encourage you to do that. Follow your gut has been our topic today. Thank you so much, Connie.
Thank you, Amanda. You are a beautiful soul. I've enjoyed spending sharing this space with you. So thanks for the opportunity and your love and kindness and your genius as well.
Okay, soulful seekers, I'll see you next week. But as usual, keep healing, keep smiling, stay inspired. Bright blessings for now.
Bye.
Goodbye.